A longtime rival is on the opposite side of the 76ers tonight in the Toronto Raptors, but Tyrese Maxey and Isaiah Joe, two new faces in this long-standing history between the Atlantic Division foes. As we welcome you into 7-6 Live Countdown once again, presented by Tissot. I'm Brian Seltzer at Mission Controls. Lauren Rosen is at the center where the 76ers play their second home game. And Lauren, a busy stretch for the Sixers, their third game in the last 4 days, and this should be a fun one.
3 games in 4 days is always difficult, but especially this year with such a condensed set of 72 games. Danny Green said this morning it's all about keeping your mind right, keeping your body right. So look for the group to find a rhythm tonight quickly. That's something they've expressed that they want to do, especially when they're at home, and rebound after somewhat of a tough evening on Sunday.
I would agree with you. We can call that loss to the Cavaliers on Sunday somewhat tough. Doc Rivers, moments ago in his pregame media availability, went as far as to call it unacceptable, the type of defense the Sixers played. But the good news for the Sixers tonight is that there are going to be no restrictions, according to Rivers, on players who are available. And number 21, Lauren, is one of those available players. It looks like Joel Embiid is going to be back tonight.
Never a bad thing to have Joel Embiid on your team, on your side, ready to go and feeling good. And as of right now, we are going to have Joel Embiid on the court this evening. Keep in mind, he looked really, really good in his first 2 outings. He said he wanted to dominate, and he was certainly dominant. So we'll hope to see that type of performance once again tonight against a familiar foe in the Toronto Raptors.
The other injury update we have, this was announced yesterday, Furkan Korkmaz. He's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks' time, so the 76ers are going to have a void on the wing, certainly in its stable of shooters, and that means there could be an opportunity for a guy who's been looking for minutes on the court.
True indeed. Without Furkan Korkmaz, we know that there's a good chance of more Matisse Thybulle minutes, something that a lot of the fans have been clamoring for. So we'll see if he can bring what he brought last year on the defensive end and couple it maybe with some shooting. Keep in mind, he had a really strong first half of his season as an outside shooter, and then those numbers petered off a little bit after his injury last winter, but it's something he says he worked on over the offseason. So look for more Matisse Thybulle minutes, more Matisse Thybulle three-point opportunities, along with the other group of wings, starters, and bench, who all have said that they're going to step up in the absence of Furkan Korkmaz, who, of course, is irreplaceable, Celts, but we'll look forward to having him back in a couple weeks.
No question about it. The Sixers last in action on Sunday. A tough 118-94 loss at Cleveland. Had a real tough time holding on to the basketball. They committed 22 turnovers. They were outscored by 30, 68-38 in the paint. Obviously, having Joel Embiid back will assist in that area. Ben Simmons was asked after the game how much not having Joel Embiid affected things for the Sixers.
At the end of the day, he was not there. We were on the floor. He had no control. So,
Ben Simmons weighing in after the game on Sunday. The 76ers won the first game of their back-to-back at the Knicks with Joe and then dropped the game on Sunday without him. But I think, Lauren, it is important for this Sixers team, and it's great that Joel Embiid is back tonight, but I think it is important that they experience what it's like to not have a mainstay like Embiid in the lineup and try and figure out how to adjust and adapt, because they're likely, whether it's Joel Embiid or another player, whether it's for hopefully only rest or other reasons, they're going to have to figure out how to get by without some of their top guys every now and then.
You said it at the top of the show. Doc Rivers said that the way they played Sunday was unacceptable, and that's a vibe that we definitely got from Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, who both spoke post-game. This is not a trend that they want to continue. Ben and Tobias both shoulder a lot of responsibility on both ends of the court this year, and they've both expressed that they need to do all the little things right. They need to set the tone early, particularly on defense, and I expect that they're going to do just that tonight. So you're right. Those two are going to have to step up anytime the team is without Joel, but it's a challenge that they've expressed they're willing to embrace.
76ers are 2-1 on the season. The Toronto Raptors playing their home games in Tampa for the first half of this season. They're 0-2 on the year. You mentioned, Lauren, Tobias Harris, and I thought that if there was going to be one positive on the end of the Sixers, it was Tobias Harris having a very solid showing in terms of his offensive game, both against the Knicks and the Cavaliers on that road trip.
Feels like he really hit a rhythm, which was important, something that Tobias expressed he wanted to do. Doc Rivers obviously has been calling for Tobias to make quicker decisions, and it seemed like especially from three-point territory, he was making those quick decisions. Like you said, 17 points against New York, 16 points against Cleveland, and I Celtics have been really impressed with the way that Tobias has stepped up on the defensive end. He had 3 steals in the second night of the back-to-back, I believe, 2 blocks the first night of the back-to-back. That's not necessarily something that we've been used to seeing from Tobias, but he has explained how important it is for him to up his game on the defensive end, and I think we've seen that.
Sixers looking for Tobias Harris to continue what he showed over the weekend in the back-to-back. And as we talked about early on just a few moments ago, Furkan Korkmaz out of the lineup. I want to kind of get into more what the 76ers have on the wings. Danny Green speaking, as you mentioned, Lauren, after this morning's shoot-around that was held at the training complex in Camden. He said that everyone's got to step up. It's not just a Matisse Thybulle thing, but it's a himself thing and a Seth Curry thing. And something that Doc Rivers was talking about during the pregame availability that I thought was interesting. He was asked about Danny Green only taking a couple shots against the Cavaliers on Sunday, and Doc's like, I'm not really worried about the specific number, but what he uses a stat like that as an indicator of, it's not so much about the individual player, but a reflection of what the team is doing, or probably better put, not doing on the offensive end. I thought that was an interesting point that Doc made.
Yeah, we're starting to pick up on Doc's isms, if you will. Another one that I liked that this reminds me of, he didn't mind that the guys missed a lot of good shots in the first couple of games. He said he liked the looks that they were getting, and the shots will fall, particularly when you're talking about experienced seasoned shooters like Seth Curry and Danny Green. He says as long as they're getting the shots that they want, that is a good sign, and they will start to fall. So like you said, Danny feels like he's getting those good shots, and it's going to be by committee tonight, especially without Furkan Korkmaz, which we'll talk more about in a little bit.
Furkan is dealing with a left adductor strain, so he's going to be back in 2 weeks. And I think that, listen, this is an opportunity for someone like Matisse, just because he's the first name on all of our minds, and I think the logical choice of getting more of a run, and Doc alluded to that. This is, unfortunately, Korkmaz is out, but a great opportunity for Matisse to get steady minutes for about 2 weeks and try and get himself back into shape. Because I do think something that's a little bit under-discussed is the fact that he wasn't healthy at the start of training camp, or even for a portion of those preseason workouts where some guys were able to get into the gym and kind of get their game legs back under them.
And I think that's the problem with getting hurt right before the season is it's not really in national attention. People don't know that that's something you're dealing with. So then to come out and have to be pushed towards the back of the rotation, maybe get fewer minutes than people expected Matisse to get, must have been something really difficult. And it's good to see that he's still scrappy and doing all those Matisse things we're used to seeing. Something that really stood out to me, Celts, is when he was subbed in at the very end of the first home game. And Doc Rivers said that sometimes players don't take well to sitting through the whole game and then having to play right at the end. But Matisse jumped up right away enthusiastically. He was ready to get in the game. And Doc Rivers said that that showed a lot about his character. That's something, of course, we as Sixers fans all know about the high character guy that Matisse Thybulle is. But now he's going to have an opportunity to match it on the court with some more minutes. And I agree with you. It'll be good for him to get his legs under him, maybe make up for some of that lost time that he had while injured during preseason.
Let's talk now, Lauren, about the Toronto Raptors for a bit. They're 0-2. It's amazing. This is the first time they're under 500 and their first 0-2 start since 2012-2013. And that just brings to mind how good Toronto has been. They've been dominant atop the Atlantic Division standings. 3 straight years now, they've won the division. They're a top threat in the Eastern Conference. We know they won the title 2 years ago. And they've undergone some change. They're playing out of a new home base, new home city in Tampa, but especially on the front line where guys like Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka gave Joel Embiid a tough time. It's a different looking front court now for Toronto.
Absolutely. Those 2 guys leaving are no small loss. And this group is going to work towards getting to build a new identity, not unlike what the Sixers are doing. And of course, you can never count out a guy like Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, who have given the Sixers problems in the past. Hometown kid, of course, Kyle Lowry, always a pleasure to see him back in the building. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, the Raptors are a team that expect to contend this season, just like the Sixers do. And now they're going to look for their first win. They got to want it. They got to be hungry to sort of get this monkey off their back. They don't want to go winless for more than a few more games.
They were really close, was Toronto, against San Antonio their last time out. And actually, Toronto's been idle since Saturday, and then they gave up a late lead. I'm looking in the chat in YouTube, which is always an interesting place to go into a chat. Some of the people there talking about Pascal Siakam. You know, something I'm curious to see is now that Toronto's personnel has changed with Baines in the front court, whether or not we're going to continue to see someone like Joel Embiid on Pascal Siakam for a portion of the game, which is something that Brett Brown did in the past and had success with Joel on Pascal Siakam. So I'll be curious to see now, with a couple tweaks of the personnel that Toronto has, whether or not the Sixers could stick with something like that. And then there's also Fred VanVleet, who is, you know, he's a stud. He was signed to a lucrative deal in the offseason, one of the top free agents on the market. Toronto made sure that they kept him, I want to say north of the border, but in the Sunshine State, at least for now.
Well, 27 points for him the other night. He's someone that has really burst onto the scene, especially in the Raptors' last couple playoff runs. So that'll be someone that the Wings will look to defend and contain. Ben Simmons, of course, could see some time against Fred VanVleet. But Ben Simmons, the most versatile defender in the league, perhaps, could also be caught on Pascal Siakam for a little bit. It'll be interesting to see where Doc puts Ben and for how long, because there are some tough defensive assignments tonight on this Raptors team for sure.
And of course, Danny Green, not too far removed from his tenure with the Toronto Raptors. He was on that title team in 2019.
Interesting to hear that he hasn't gotten his ring yet. That must be something that he's really waiting on. I know now he's indebted 2 rings from 2 different teams in 2 consecutive years. Let's see if maybe he can make it 3 rings. Does he need 3 rings in a row?
He's talked about it. Why not? Keep a good thing going. He said he's going to blame it on the Sixers if he doesn't. Before we get to our Tissot, yes, very true, very true. Before we get to our Tissot keys to the game, let's bring it back full circle. If you're just joining us and signed on, Joel Embiid is available tonight, according to Doc Rivers. At least that was when Doc spoke. There's always an opportunity and possibility, as we saw before the game against Cleveland, that there could be a late scratch. But as of now, as we speak, every indication is that Joe will play tonight, and there won't be any restrictions on him. And I think one of the neat things hearing Doc, new head coach, talk about Joe, Lauren, is that, like, everyone knows Joe is the crown jewel. That's understood. He's so talented. But Doc has been talking a lot about how just as long as the ball gets to Joel, especially on the block, good things can happen for the team. It's like, go in and one of 2 things will happen. He's going to be doubled and someone else is going to be open, or the guy's going to probably be in single coverage and he's just going to go up and score on you or draw a foul.
Well, this is something we talked about on Sunday. The way that Joel is welcoming the doubles this year, I know he's expressed that he's been working on double teams throughout his entire career. Certainly the amount of time I've been with the Sixers, I know that's something that he's focused on quite a bit. But to hear him say, "I dare you to double me," that just got me excited, because it means he's welcoming that challenge. And he believes in his teammates too. If he gets doubled, he kicks it out, and he has guys that he trusts all the way around the arc. That's a big deal. So I understand why Doc would say that if Joel is firing, it means he's either hitting shots down low or he's finding his teammates well in those doubles. And that's going to spell trouble for teams across the league all year if Joel can keep it going.
It is time, literally and figuratively, for our Tissot keys to the game. Do you want to go first, Lauren, or should I?
Let's do it, Self.
You went first last time.
You can take it. You can take it.
Okay. You're very gracious. Well, I wrote my key to the game before we knew Joel was probably going to play tonight. But my key was simply this: focus. I felt like that wasn't there in the Cleveland game on Sunday. The team ran into a tough spot, couldn't recover. One of their best players wasn't on the floor. I'm not saying that they would have necessarily won the game, but they probably wouldn't have lost by as much as they did. I think that's one of the things that kind of stuck in the craw of Doc Rivers. So just get out there tonight, sharpen things back up, and I fully expect that, win or lose with Joel Embiid out there, body language, intensity, focus is going to be different for the Sixers tonight.
I like that, Key Selton. Mine also I decided on before we knew about Joel's status, but I believe that it holds up nonetheless. I said fire up the wings. We've obviously talked about the loss of Furkan Korkmaz quite a bit on this show. But as Danny Green said this morning, as long as the rest of the wings can shoulder the load that Furkan usually takes on, the team will still be in pretty good shape. So whether it's a Matisse Thybulle off the bench or it's Seth and Danny coming out strong, we're pretty deep with wings, the Sixers this year. Tobias Harris, like we said, looked good over the weekend. So as long as that unit of guys can get fired up early and often, I think it's going to be a success because, like you said, if we have Joel down low, fired up, and wings all around the arc, fired up, it's going to look pretty good for the Sixers.
All right, Lauren, thank you very much. Enjoy your evening at the center. Thanks to everyone who logged on, watched, listened on the platforms that we're on tonight. Remember, before every game, 90 minutes ahead of time, Twitter, Facebook, Sixers YouTube, app, website, 7-6 Live Countdown, presented by Tissot. Thanks to Ryan Coletti and Trevor Gaffney on the sticks, behind the scenes. See ya.
Thanks,
Thursday.
guys.